Most people think the big factor in my shift was my breast cancer, and it wasn't.
Oh,
So I do adhere to the belief of a higher power. Everyone has
mhm.
different definitions: God, source, nature, high consciousness, and it was a way to slow me down. I was going in a direction that wasn't serving me, and it wasn't necessarily what my soul signed up for. And I was about to launch this fusion belly dance career, and then I got the breast cancer. And so the breast cancer didn't slow me down either. Like, Michael, I'll be honest with you and your audience. I was the one that the oncologists were always asking, so where are you running off to?
Welcome, everyone. This is Unfiltered Conversations with your host, Michael, and I'm here with a special guest, Jenny. She's a breast cancer survivor, embodiment coach, formerly a award-winning dancer. Well, still an award-winning dancer. She's a #1 best-selling author and creator of the Spotlight Confidence Method, helping women of all ages, but 40 plus mostly, turn fear into confidence, soulful presence, and we're here to just embrace, learn, and honor everything she's done. So thank you, Jenny, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. You know, on air, you talked about in a previous podcast about living outside in. Uh, what does that mean? Start with that healing embodiment process for us.
I love this question, Michael, because
Yeah.
normally we talk about the Inside Out. Even the
Mhm.
movie Inside Out was one of my favorite movies that helped me make sense of emotions. And what I've been learning as I hit level 58, so that's age 58. Level, we call it levels now, just so you know, like
Mhm.
video games, because
Mhm.
no one wants to be a lower level, right?
Yeah.
So, so I noticed that when I started working with clients who wanted to address old habits
Mhm.
or inability to focus or even an old pattern. Everyone knows this lingo now, like an old pattern they can't fix or a block.
Mhm.
My most successful clients were the ones that we worked on safety in the body first. As a breast cancer survivor, when I first was released by the doctors, this meant they said, okay, we don't need to see you for a year. And I went, what? You saw me every 3 months for almost 2 years. And now you say I'm safe by myself? Like, what do I do with
Mhm.
my body? I'm in menopause, like I'm bald.
Yeah.
What do I do with myself? And I found that I didn't trust my body because I thought, how do I prevent the cancer from coming back? I was at
Mm.
what I thought was my healthiest when I got breast cancer. I've been working out and vegan for 7 months before. I did not realize that the level of stress I've been in most of my life was leading to my immune system being very weak. And so it didn't
Mm.
matter how strong my body was, my connection, that outside connection of body and mind, I did not have.
Gotcha.
So when I have my clients moving with certain ideas and willingness to listen to their body. So here's the download that I think your audience would really appreciate because this is
Mhm.
unfiltered, right?
Yeah.
Most of us think, oh, I can't trust my body. Well, can your body trust you?
Mm.
We never listen to our body. It's always, I'm Jane Fonda era. We're going to beat this body into shape. Like, marathon runners think about conquering their body so they can run the 26 miles. My children were elite athletes. They were junior Olympians that brought home gold and silver medals at 12, right? And then I thought, well, wait a minute. If my body is listening to me, did I warn my body I was opting in for chemotherapy? Because the body isn't
Mm.
sentient that way. It's only sentient in the inside of you, meaning if you think you want something, your body's geared immediately to start launching for that thing,
Mhm.
whether it's good or bad, right? But if I'm not checking and going, hey, body, are we good? Are we good? Do you know we're going to go and let people pump poison in you?
Yeah.
And then use x-rays that are going to really, really mess with the internal structure of your bones. I didn't do any of that research, so I didn't have knowledge, and I just walked into treatment not realizing I actually betrayed myself not doing the research and understanding what that would mean. If you
Mm.
think about it, Michael,
Mhm.
we didn't grow up being told by our families, hey, did you check in with your body today? No one grows up knowing that, and that's really important.
Man, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So how does that? I guess, I mean, because for you, it became more of a not more of, but it's an ingrained habit for you to, check in with yourself? Is it something you do every morning, or how often do you perform that's I guess that wellness check?
All right, so I told you I'm almost level 58. I would say I became aware of this needing to establish safety and trust with my body so that my body trusts me. I would say that started maybe 7, 8 years ago. So that means for most of my life, I didn't trust my body didn't trust me. We're only 7 years into this relationship, y'all. So it's kind of imperative that I do multiple things throughout the day. I have alarms set on my phone, which I had to turn them all off before we started this interview, so that every hour it's a little blip blip. Are you present? Because most of the time I'm not.
Mm,
Like all of us, we're
yeah,
not. It's a safety mechanism. It's a safety mechanism, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I have alarms that go off in the mornings. It took me a couple of years. I started during the pandemic, which I call the panini lockdown, because people have different definitions about whether or not we're in and out of it. So call it the panini. It's a safe word for everybody. During that lockdown, I started thinking I have no self-care ritual, because before we could just run out the door and say I'm busy, and then now we're locked down with ourselves for a few years. I
Mhm,
discovered I didn't have a self-care routine. And I would set something up and then not be consistent. So it took me until maybe 3 years ago before I realized, hey, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to do these somatic exercises that calm me down. I did not
mhm,
know, Michael. No, very few of us know that when you wake up in the morning, our brain is flushed with cortisol. It's higher in the mornings to
mm,
wake us up.
okay.
It's a very elite system in our bodies. So there's a reason why when you when you get your blood test after you fasted, they have different ranges of what's good cortisol for the morning versus the evening.
Mm,
People don't know that. You go, "Oh, I woke up, I'm so refreshed." And your body, especially your brain, was flooded with cortisol to help you wake up, right? And so I learned
mhm,
that. I went, all right, well, I'm do something to calm myself down when I wake up in the morning. And then
mhm,
when I do that, then I have specific physical therapy exercises that reset my pelvis. Why the
mm,
pelvis, Michael? Not because I was a mom, but because we all carry our memories in our pelvis.
mm,
We have a lot of memories there, men and women, and however you identify, that's where the bulk of it sits, right? So I
mhm,
have certain physical outside things I do to realign my pelvic alignment. Because
mhm.
when we sleep, you're young, so you wouldn't know, but just a forewarning for you and your audience that as you age, things settle in different ways in your sleep. So you just have to reset them back again. I could go
And
on and
I'm
on. I drink
and
water, I
so
do this, I do that.
yeah, yeah, well, I'm thankful though that you said I'm young. I appreciate that. 100%, because my soldiers and airmen, they call me old. I'm 42, and so they was like, "Oh, you're so old." I'm like, "Old? That's not old." They like, "Yeah, sir, you're just old."
Wait, what is the average age of who you're working with?
The average age of my airmen is roughly around 28.
Mhm.
Even my lieutenants are 27, 28. And
Yes.
so
Well, we can say between you and I, and
yeah.
even if they hear this, I'll stand by it. They're just starting to realize that the brain doesn't fully mature until after 28,
Mhm.
right? So we'll just leave it to them not really fully understanding and appreciating it because their brains can't comprehend it. It's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay. And don't forget, you're level 40. You're in the 40s level. They're only in the 20s level.
yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I like
whatever they wanna call you, be
that.
like, "But I'm higher level than you, so what are you gonna do about
Yeah.
it?"
Yeah. No, I get at them all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm older than you guys and I can run faster. So
I know
what does
about
that just letting you know. They get mad. They get mad. So
that.
so I so who were you with like before your diagnosis?
Mm,
When it came to before you got the I guess the diagnosis of breast cancer and everything, like how did that person before that diagnosis to this person differ?
mhm, mhm, yes, most people think the big factor in my shift was my breast cancer, and it wasn't.
Oh.
So, I do adhere to the belief of a higher power. Everyone has
Mm,
different definitions: God, source, nature, high consciousness, and it was a way to slow me down. I was going in a direction that didn't wasn't serving me, and it wasn't necessarily what my soul signed up for. And I was about to launch this fusion belly dance career. And then I got the breast cancer. And so the breast cancer didn't slow me down either. Like, Michael, I'll be honest with you and your audience. I was the one that the oncologists were always asking, so where are you running off to now? Because I would slide in all these dance events in between my treatments.
Wow.
Dance was a way for me to feel, in retrospect, I didn't understand why then.
Mhm.
In retrospect, it was one of the few times I could actually feel safe enough to be in my body because I wasn't sitting hooked up to an IV of chemotherapy or
Mhm.
feeling the after effects of it. Dance allowed me to be in spaces where there were healthy bodies moving and there's an energy
Mm.
exchange in the room. So I would replenish my will to live going to dance events. And then as I got done with treatment, I still was kind of hooked, a little bit addicted to that, and I was still not processing what needed to be processed. And I would keep going to dance events. What really slowed me down, and this is unfiltered, and I have permission to speak on this because my kids are now grown. One of my children, who were my miracle babies through in vitro fertilization, one of my miracle babies went into a lot of emotional and mental distress. So there's a trigger warning for your audience. They were doing pretty severe self-harm and making plans to not be in this particular lifetime anymore. And I was very lucky they trusted me to tell me because things shifted. And I thought at first, because I was an occupational therapist before I had kids, Michael. So I know all about how to set up structures for someone to be independent. I still didn't get the message until 2 weeks later when this precious miracle who chose me to be their mom had a very severe relapse. I had locked up all the knives. Even, pencil sharpeners, there are blades in there. You have to lock those up too. So I had locked up everything but a drawer of brand new knives. And she had hidden away a fish fillet knife. It was bad. And we really, really almost lost that precious baby. And it just shifted everything. So for me, before it was, I would serve for my own safety. I was really good at being the first person to make you feel good because somehow in my mind, I thought that made me safe.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, it's the other way around. I had to make me feel safe before I could help anyone else feel safe. And that's the big shift between then and now.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of that old adage of put your gas mask on before you help someone else put, not gas mask, but
I
the
know.
mask on before you help others put their mask on. And
Yeah.
that, man, that means so much, so much. So as you started this huge shift, especially and getting more ingrained, especially with your dance community and everything, who was your first mentors, role models, either in dance or the healing work you're doing, and what impact did that have on you?
Back in 2009, so I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2014. 5 years before that, I had met this woman named Donna Mejia. She's based out in Denver, and she's a Fulbright scholar, and she was with the Dance Academy. And I fell in love with the way she taught because she would always say, are you paying attention to your body? Not beat your body into submission. It was,
Yeah.
your body's always telling you things. You just haven't learned how to listen. And she introduced this, what was to us very brand new, that your body is a sentient being. At that time, she did not remind us that we have neurons that mirror the brain in your gut and your heart.
Mhm.
We have the same type of anatomy in your below the neck area. She just said, your body's a sentient being. It's actually always trying to give what you think you want. It will immediately move in that direction, even if it's to the detriment of itself. Your body will always do that, which makes sense, right? The marathon example I showed you, my kids overtraining to be elite athletes. Those of us who burn out in our jobs when our body's like, hello, we need sleep. I'm like, no, I need to get this thing done. Right, Michael? So Donna was one of the first people to introduce this to me. And then there was another person by the name of Rachel Bryce, Brice. She's an international level known dancer for fusion belly dance. And Rachel was combining certain yoga principles of stretching with belly dancing. So in belly dancing, which lets the memories out from your core, because we do a lot of hip wiggles and a lot of undulations in the lower belly where our memories sit, remember? And Rachel would also pair it with, hey, listen, if you're wiggling your hips a lot, you're going to accidentally tighten your hamstrings. So here's some yoga stretches for that. And Donna and Rachel were the only professors I would take or teachers that I would not have back pain after dance class. So we're moving away from ballet and modern when you're going into more of folkloric dances that have been morphed into American styles. There's a lot more hip heavy movements. And I was having so much back pain. And these two were the first ones who taught me about body sentience, how to avoid injuries. And the biggest thing that Rachel talked about was growth mindset, that no one's born with natural talent that succeeds, right? And
True.
my kids were epitomes of that, because when they started rhythmic gymnastics, Michael, they were told at 6, they were too old. They were too old. You missed the window. You missed the window, and you're the wrong proportions. Your bodies and arm lengths are not the same. So they basically told my kids at 6 they were too fat to become rhythmic gymnasts. I know. So of course we had to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
My kids were like, because I raised them all to be free thinkers. We ended up homeschooling them, because I couldn't fathom putting them in school. Thank goodness we didn't put them in school. And they were avid. If you say the sky's black and I can see with my eyeballs is white, I'm going to argue with you that it's white, and I'll show you and prove it to you 5 different ways. That's how they were raised. So for us, it became this, well, what do you want to do? They're like, we want to stay. We want to do Olympics. I was like, I can't afford Olympics, but we could try for Junior Olympics.
Yeah.
And so they proved everybody wrong, including their own coach, because they had the growth mindset.
I love that. Can you tell me about, I'll say that one key lesson that through your life experience taught you to always continue to hold on and have that resilience?
There's multiple ones. I would say right now, currently what's in my forefront is, if I don't preserve this body I'm in, I can't fulfill my life's purpose, which still hasn't been shown to me fully.
Yeah.
I know that what I'm doing right now is just giving me tools as I move in that direction, Michael. I think everybody who goes through hard things, it's hard to understand it when you're in the middle of it, and I wouldn't ever ask anyone to do that. However, if we look back at past experiences, there's so many lessons we could reap from it. Right? Because it taught me so much about grit.
Yeah.
Everyone and anyone listening to this, and you're more than 10 years old, even if you're more than 7, okay, 5 years old. We survived our parents trying to figure out how to raise us. Seriously,
Yeah.
right? We have grit. Very few people are not born with grit. I'm just telling you right now. People are like, oh, you didn't suffer. You came from affluent family. I'm sorry. Where you're a baby and powerless with parents who didn't know what to do with you,
Yeah.
that's the even playing ground for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we look back and realize, oh, there's life lessons, and maybe you might find, oh, there was no lesson other than to run away from that person as much as possible. Okay. Think back then now, the person you are. What lessons did you learn, though, from that? Because I never did that when I was growing up, and I wish I had, Michael, because I would not be repeating some of the lessons I had to.
Facts. That is facts. Oh my goodness. I kind of want to go back to you kind of talked about it, that you did work in occupational therapy and you hold a master's degree, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh.
And many movement and also many more I think certificates you have, right? What drew your combined clinical training with dance into, I guess you're doing now with coaching? What drove that?
What drove that to it? Because I had a running joke with myself when I was raising my itty bitty fraternal twins through in vitro fertilization, that all of my skills for occupational therapy helped me raise them. Because an occupationalist, an OT skill is to break down tasks so that you're doing and achieving your goal in a safe way. So we're not doing it for you, but we'll break it down the way you can do it. So for example, back to the rhythmic gymnastics thing, I to this day cannot do a cartwheel. I can teach you how. I can teach you safe. I could break it down so you feel like you're achieving, and it's still your work, not mine. I'm not touching you the whole time, but I will get you into a beautiful cartwheel. And I feel that if that's what you want. Does that make sense? I'm not going to force you into the cartwheel. It's like my fraternal twins, because they were 2 separate fertilized eggs, right? I had one child who was the risk taker. He would just throw himself until he got the cartwheel. And I had another one who had a different nervous system. And I realized, oh, this child needs to break down things in many, many things. And then from my OT background, I realized, oh, she loses tone. She's upside down. So she's getting different feedback. And we had to break things down. So it took her 3 months to get the cartwheel. To this day, her cartwheels are still cleaner than her brother's. It's different. You see what I'm saying? I want parents to have that. That's, for me, almost the hidden IKEA instructions for every child. If you knew how to break tasks down, you don't even need to know their learning styles because you're already exposed to all of them. That combined with the dance, when I saw and realized, oh, when you start to dance, people would blossom dancing, whether or not they ever performed, because they would find this connection of safety and movement. And then I realized, oh, we don't always have to know choreographies. I have clients that will dance to the sound of waves, water running, bird song, which, by the way, is the universal sound of safety, by the way, right?
Bird sounds?
Bird sounds, yeah, because you think about it. Most danger scenarios, there's no bird singing.
That is true. That is true.
right?
That is very
Or like,
true.
right, if you're out on the field, some of your soldiers, and the birds go quiet, there's a problem about to happen,
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is very true.
right? And so some people, they don't wanna listen to music, they wanna listen to natural sounds that mean safety, and then they move in that. And that's the spontaneous movement, improvisation.
Wow, you describe yourself, I hope I say this right, as a neurosomatic practitioner. How would you explain that term to someone who heard it for the first time?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would acknowledge it's a lot of syllables. Like the full the formal thing, and I'm bilingual, so you would think I could have no problems with it. I speak Mandarin and I have all the tones. Yeah, it took me a while. So I'm officially board certified integrative neurosomatic practitioner, which means fancy. When someone wants a shift, we help their brain and body
Mhm,
kind of do this, interlace to
mhm.
work to maximize that shift. Because mindset
Okay.
alone isn't enough. Dancing
Mhm.
alone isn't enough. We want them to be integrated for optimal shift.
I love that. I love that. What type of, I guess, issues do you typically address with those methods when you're trying to get, I guess, people to interlace?
This is the $1,000,000 question. It really is because I've if I were to look at my roster of all my clients, other than that they were all higher levels,
Hmm.
I've also had occasionally a few younger ages, younger levels, right?
Hmm.
Most of them are unresolved things from their childhood that they may or may not be aware of.
Yeah.
For example, I was a guest on a podcast. There were two hosts. One of them had a lot of questions about anger. And I
Mm.
was like, well, we might need to book a call because I don't know if you really want me to explore what's causing you anger on a public podcast.
Yeah.
She was a scientist and we ended up working together.
Mm.
Okay. Another person was a person from my dance community, and we realized that she had personal blocks about being a leader. But those weren't they weren't the reasons why they ended up needing the work. Because I just to protect their their privacy, I'm not gonna talk
Yeah,
about
the
what they
anonymity.
worked on,
Yeah.
but they present with one thing because that's what you're ready to deal with, and then
Hmm.
through the physical things when we establish safety, they're usually more willing to go deeper.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
usually it's related, to something when they were pre-verbal,
Okay.
unfortunately. It's
Yeah.
always related to that, whether it was a perception, like a small T, a perception of not being heard
Yeah.
versus a big T where the trigger warning, there's more essay involved. Here's the thing, like our brains don't differentiate between a big T and a little t. It's all T for
Yeah.
our tiny little baby brains. We're not like, oh, this is the degree. Yours isn't, I can there's none differentiation. There's none of that differentiation. If you're a
Mm.
powerless baby and you somehow feel unfulfilled in some need, that's a T for the baby.
Mm.
And some babies have a nervous system that one T will be different than for another baby. That same T will be very, very traumatic. And there's just that recognition.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. Also with everything you're doing, you created uh, something called the Spotlight Confidence Formula. What is the core idea of that program, and um, I guess I would say, what prompted you to develop it?
The Spotlight Confidence Formula reminds us that we're actually the star of our own life.
Ooh, like that.
Right?
Like that.
Oftentimes, some of us struggle with being in the spotlight. Some of us struggle wanting to be in the spotlight. Some of us struggle with wanting to be ready for the spotlight. Some of the things that we're not good enough for the spot, or whatever the spotlight is.
Hmm.
And the Spotlight Confidence Formula really addresses for us the fight. We have a birthright to that spotlight.
Mm, mm, perfect. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that. Man, how do you help someone transform that fear into confidence in that practice?
One of our first steps is to understand fear has a purpose, like
Mm,
anger has a purpose,
purpose. Yes.
right? We were made by higher power, source, nature, God to have this plethora of emotions.
Hmm.
It's really important that we express all of our emotions. Fear is one of those things that actually is protective for us.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it exists in our rainbow of emotions, really,
Hmm.
truly. And then when you acknowledge that, and then on the other side of it, understand why you might have fear, and then how to move in spite of it. So sometimes fear is really supposed to stop you. Sometimes fear is supposed to propel you. Sometimes fear is to warn you. None of us are equipped to know any of that from the very get-go when we start the work, right? And so in some of our sessions, we spend doing things that are called muscle testing, which is kinesiology, where you're asking your body yes, no questions to try and tease out what is this fear really? Because sometimes behind it is anger or shame or guilt, right? Or sometimes it's excitement and we
Yeah.
think it's fear, but it's not.
So it's kind of crazy that you say that because as soon as you started talking about that, it reminded me of the movie Inside Out, I think it was,
Yeah.
where everybody sadness came in and got introduced, right? And from that, everybody kind of kept sadness off, but you actually needed sadness to appreciate happiness. And so, and it's like every emotion does have a purpose and a point to it that helps you discover where you actually need to be and how you need to go. I'm so thankful that I guess for your spotlight method and actually basically revealing that and showing that. Wow, that's pretty amazing. So okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. You really did a two-part series, I believe, before on another podcast when you talking about doing, and being and burnout. What personal struggles, if you are willing to share, with burnout or the pressure that you always had to move through, and how did you overcome it?
Well, this is unfiltered. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm
Burnout is
ready.
not pretty. Sometimes okay. So, in all honesty, burnout has different ways of manifesting or being shown or hinted at for different people at different times. Okay.
Mhm.
So, as I talk about my stories, I would love for you and your audience to start thinking about what parts of it resonate with you
Yeah.
and where it's showing up in your life because guaranteed, anyone over the age of 6 has some versions of burnout in their lives and we just don't know it. We're not brought up to look for it because
Mhm.
we don't have systems to release our valves of energy and stress. We don't do it in our this particular present day modern culture. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of permission to speak of feelings unfiltered, right?
Mhm.
So burnout for me, there was burnout for me when my son at 10, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that meant that from 10 on, he wasn't making any more insulin in his tiny little pancreas. His body attacked itself and killed off the cells in his pancreas and makes insulin. So it's not like an older adult or somebody else who can make insulin, but their body's resistant to insulin. They have to do the synthetic, right? So he had no insulin in his body. And the doctors were saying, "Oh, there's no worries. There's only 3 things he can't do." 1 was be in the military back then. 2 was drive a commercial plane, and then 3 was maybe skydive or something like I can't remember what the 3rd one. And I took it at face value until he went home, and then I started doing research and realized, "Oh, there's a lot he can't do." And then
Mm.
I saw the statistic. 1 in 9 children won't make it to adulthood back then with type 1 because they die in their sleep. And so then I had this very normal for me,
Mhm.
abnormal for mainstream fear that he was going to die in his sleep. So I just didn't sleep because I was Jenny was someone going to single handedly keep my son alive
Yeah.
by not sleeping. So I would check on him and go to bed about 4, 3 or 4. Sometimes 2 if I was really tired. And my husband gets up at 4. So my son was only kind of watched over for an hour and a half or 2.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
didn't know that that was burning me out, right? Because I was still homeschooling them. They were still elite athletes at the time. Like when my son went to Junior Olympics, he had already been diagnosed with type 1. That increases it. I know,
Yeah.
Michael. I know. I forgot to tell that detail to y'all. Like
Yeah.
in the middle of all this thing where they were proving everybody wrong, we were working on the growth mindset. They still my son still brought home gold medals, as did his sister, right?
Mhm.
And the thing is, I was burning the candle, not just both ends, but in the middle, and I did not know. I presented, right, as a very dedicated mother, they're
Mhm.
homeschooling on top of that, and they were doing extra practices because they were not the favorites. So the favorites don't get to run through all their routines. So I had to figure out other systems for them to practice more. Because I'm the OT, I can break stuff down. Remember the cartwheel? Like I could get them to do this double somersault with a toss because I know how to break it down. And I was taking no vacation, no sleep. I still
Wow.
presented as a very successful person. I was working out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward 4 years later, I get breast cancer because I've been burning the candle and did not know. My body
Mm.
was tired, right? In the middle of that, I think a month before I found the lump, my husband went in for an emergency bowel obstruction surgery. So he's in the hospital. My son with type 1 and his sister are sleeping in the Subaru with the 2 dogs in the parking lot with the engine running. And I'm checking on him at 2:00 in the morning in case he dies in his sleep. My husband had a 5-hour bowel obstruction surgery, and I'm sleeping by his bedside at the bed. No help. Didn't ask for it, didn't get any.
Wow.
Burning the candle. That I turned up the volume. That's one example. Yeah. Another example was after everything was done, and you would think, okay, Jenny's hair's growing back. I got dreads with permission from my black girlfriends. And I'm touring and I'm gonna start going. I go to Germany
Yeah.
and I come back and did not realize that once I was cleared by the doctors, I was actually traveling every 2-3 months. Again, on the outskirts, Jenny looked like she was doing great, touring, getting offers to teach, placing second runner up in Germany for a competition, even though I gave them the wrong music because I was so stressed out about it. I was
Wow.
having stress-induced vertigo. Still didn't acknowledge I was burning the candle, right?
Yeah.
There's not much candle stub left.
Yeah.
And then my daughter went into distress because I missed all the signs that she was self-harm. I missed them all until, thank goodness, she trusted her download to tell us.
So you said and you described incidents where you were burning the candles like on both ends, right? That wick. When you finally, I guess, hit the wall, as they say, right? What was that change? What was the main thing that you had to realize that you had to make a change for that helped you?
It was the very okay, so trigger warning for your audience. It was when she had the relapse because she still had enough wherewithal to wait until she knew I was going to a local dance event for 3 hours. Suggested to her brother and father, we should get pizza, knowing they would fall asleep after eating the pizza. And then she locked herself in the bathroom with that fresh, clean, very sharp fish fillet knife. And then when we came home, her brother said to me, Mom, because they've been banging on the door, and they were about to bang the door down. And then she finally opened the door, and they said, especially her brother, who's her fraternal twin, he's like, Mom, that wasn't my sister. It was a complete stranger in that bathroom. And I was like, I'm gonna lose her. And that was it. And what we did was we went on lockdown to be really present. None of us have been present in the family. And we went into fostering kittens because kittens are very, very, very delicate. We don't realize how fragile they really are. And it just became a keep daughter safe and fed and alive, keep kittens safe, fed, and alive. Then daughter wanted to help with the kittens, but daughter wasn't allowed to unless daughter took care of self. Then daughter could help with kittens. So then it kind of like kept everybody present. Lots of live kittens happened. And then there was a recovery at that point.
Wow. You know, I really, really resonate with your story because a similar thing happened to me. I remember, and this is years back, young and in love, I thought I was with this young lady,
Oh.
and so I just got stationed in Okinawa because I was at Minot, and I was dating this Caucasian girl, white girl, and we had a great relationship. I thought, everything was great. I was in Okinawa for a year, so I came back on Christmas to solidify our engagement in front of her family, and I wanted to ask her father for hand in marriage. And so I was gonna get an apartment, and she's like, "No, my parents said you could stay with us." And I was like, "Is that okay?" and stuff like that. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. They know we're engaged, and you want to talk to that, so it's fine." And I said, "You sure?" Talked to her father, talked to her mother. He said it was okay. Okay, cool. But long story short, she came, picked me up, and then we got into a kind of a tizzy where I found out she had a relationship with someone else while we were still together. Being apart, and so she wanted me to forgive her, and I was like, "No, I'm done." And so what she ended up doing is she tried to attack me with a knife, and then when she couldn't get in the room, she ended up going into the bathroom. And so I was like, her parents wasn't there. Her parents was off at work, and her brother lived downstairs they had a full decked out basement. He lived there with his wife in the basement as they was getting on their feet. So I was like, I knew his wife was at work and he was still downstairs. So I'm like, he probably heard all that noise. So after I finished packing, she was in one of the bathrooms, and I went downstairs and I said, "Hey, man," I told him what happened. We were sitting on this bed talking, and then I was like, "Yeah, And he's like, man, I'm so sorry for you and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, it's all good. And he's like, where's Christian? And I was like, she's in the bathroom. I think I hear the water running or something. And he bolted upstairs, bam. And he banging on the door, banging on the door. And she like, leave me alone, leave me alone. And then he's like, oh, what's going on? And and I'm like, and no, not he was, I was saying, what's going on? And he's like, what you doing in there and stuff like that. So long story short, he trying to bust down the door. And I hear water running. And then, I hear the thing open up, and as the water starting to drain, she like, I'll open up in a minute and stuff like that. And and so I'm like, like, what's going on? He like, hey, we need to bust down this door. So I said, okay. So I went, hit the door, almost broke it. And then she's like, no, I'm coming. And I go, boo, and I bust the door open. And then he walks in there, and then the water's already drained, but you see the red blood in there. And then she's wearing a hoodie. And then, I see like she's holding herself, like this. And I went like that, and I grabbed her wrist, and she's like, ow, ow. And I
Oh,
look, and she's bleeding because she
it was
cut her
self-harming.
wrist. And yeah, her goal was to, I guess, fill the bathtub up, cut and be in the water. If that triggers anyone, you turn off at the moment. I'm just being honest, unfiltered conversation.
Unfiltered.
So
Mm.
I really resonate with with that situation. And me, we were young. We were like 22
Baby.
years old. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to operate. Her brother's crying there. He's
Mm-mm.
calling, dad and mom, and they're coming back home. And I guess she done something like this years ago. I guess she relapsed because, of our relationship. And and I never knew this about her, and I thought I knew a lot. And so, her family was like, I don't know what happened. I explained to him what happened, and it's like, oh, okay. And so it's not that it was just a lot. It was a lot. And so I understand exactly what you guys had to go through. And then even though me and her didn't work out, I tried to stay as close as possible, because I felt like, hey, as we transition, our relationship, I didn't want to be the catalyst for her doing something to harm herself.
Mhm.
Um, and it took a toll on me physically. I just be honest. So I do understand when something like that does happen with family, even though family comes together, it's still a lot.
It's a
To
lot. It's a lot. I'm hoping, Michael, that you got therapy for that.
I know I actually didn't. I didn't. Uh,
Okay, permission.
yes.
Permission to offer an insight that I was just given.
No,
And you can
appreciate that.
disregard it. You can disregard
No,
it if
go,
it doesn't serve
no,
you.
go ahead. Go ahead. No.
Um, I would highly recommend you explore a therapist to just because that stuff gets a hold in your subconscious and you don't know. Like, I would
Mhm.
process that. And then if you need a list of people, I would recommend for you to do some work that is more energy related. And a research article just came out in April of 2026 about how energy work is actually uh, able to be tracked. They did it with cancer cells in rats. That energy brought the cancer down. And so, because our bodies hold on to all of our memories, there has
Mhm.
to be a release for you because you were helping her energetically. You've got to let some of that stuff out of you.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
You don't have to work with me, but we got to get you set up with somebody.
Okay.
Promise?
Yeah.
And then you just consider it like, even if you do you journal,
Mhm.
you journal, right?
Yes, I actually do.
Perfect. Perfect. So then this will be right in line because some people don't journal. And they're like, "What do you want me to do? Write things down with a pen? Not keyboard? Yes, with a pen." So ask your in your journal. You could try it with as long as the pen is like a gel pen, like the Sharpie pen, where they're really
Mhm.
smooth and rolly. In your
Mhm.
dominant hand, write down some questions like um, do I still need to work on healing from that particular instance or any other experience? And then
Yeah.
put the pen in your non-dominant hand and let it answer you.
Mm.
At first, it may not be legible, and that's okay. Okay? Just
Mhm.
do it enough. Well, you'll get more legible. Like my son was resistant to this exercise. He was like, me, like, with the opposite of what I suggested because his
Mhm.
mother was that way. So of course I have kids like that. And so he wouldn't do it for about 2 years. And both of them are very artistic. When my son finally did it, his non-dominant hand answered him in poetry,
Mm.
legible poetry. Because I was just waiting for him to frickin' ask questions, right?
Mm.
So if you regularly journal, see, and And it may be, no, you're fine. You don't need to do that. But then really start exploring things like that for yourself.
And honestly, it was tough because, like, you want to be there for that person, even though, and then the relationship, we were still together, but I kind of, before we broke, you know what I'm saying? Cause so it's like, yeah. And, so everything you're doing, man, it resonates so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
are you dancing regularly?
Actually, no. So I used to like,
I'm gonna turn it like, so Michael, are you dancing? Like, what kind of music do you like? Are we doing pelvic movements?
So I used to, this is back in the day when I had the knees for it. I used to actually dance a lot. That's how I used to, get interest from young ladies inside. They'd be like, "Oh, you're a good dancer," and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so there's a healing aspect to dance that your body needs. And I could totally understand after surviving that type of situation with a past partner, you might not be inclined to dance because like it sounds like it's your superpower, Michael. And you could dance just for you. You don't have to dance publicly if that's too intertwined with that. Like at home, just put on a song and groove. Like anything that gets you moving, you can process that way instead of seeing a therapist. Does that make sense? But you do want to like give yourself permission to feel any other feelings about that. You could feel anger, resentment, guilt, fear. There's one more that I can't. What was the other one? Well, when I remember it, I'll send it to you. Certain memories of those emotions, you want to give yourself permission to feel and let it go. That's the thing. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm just going to release it. It doesn't come back. It boomerangs back to you. So you've got to give yourself permission to feel because you're trying to be her foundation and not be a part of toppling her over. Even though honestly, that was her thing, not yours. A part of you's taken some of that with you to this day, and you got to let it go.
no, you're right. You're not wrong. And even in that, you kind of mentioned it, like, where, it boomerangs back, and it's like, and you talked about like, in this, in a form of, I think, what it was, complex PTSD,
Yes.
from childhood traumas and situations and things you dealt with. How did those early experiences affect your adult life and the work and the path that you're on today?
All right, boo. I don't think we're allowed to be here for 2 hours, even though I did just do an interview where she ended up being 2 hours with me. So I'll keep it short and sweet, and I can come back a second time, and then you can come on my podcast so we can talk more.
Yes, yes.
I was born in 1968. I know, when the dinosaurs were alive. Back then, because I know you're some of your little itty ones. They're like, what is that? Was that in like when the dinosaurs were roaming, or when when they got taken out by the asteroids? Anyways, back then I was the eldest daughter, first grandchild. I had the audacity to be a girl. So that was really a big no-no. My parents were the very first on both sides to be non-arranged marriages. So they met in Taipei. My father was from southern Taiwan. My mother was from the middle of Taiwan. Taiwan's like a bean. And the northern tip is where Taipei is, and they met there. But they were the first to be non-arranged marriages. So they were like trailblazers in their time. And then they had their first child, which was supposed to be a boy, that's expected. Girl shows up, and there's some dissatisfaction, especially from my father's side of the family. Okay. That was what set off this whole life of being raised that the only way I would have safety was to be of service. Because 18 months later, my brother was born, and I was assigned a second mother. That was my role. Before my own safety came, I had to make everybody else feel safe. Right? And what does that do to someone's nervous system? You get breast cancer, in your 30s, because it's a lifetime of never putting yourself first, never understanding you have needs, never actually feeling seen or heard. Even though I found this amazing man to be married to in college, but I never felt loved, even though he always showed me love. You don't feel it because you don't have it for yourself, because you were never shown it as a baby, right? So the shift now has been more understanding that, oh my gosh, I'm a dancer. And even though I had chemotherapy damage to my feet, even before chemotherapy, I wasn't really in my body. And the only times I felt in my body was during chemo when I would dance. What? And that's been the shift that I want for everyone to understand, that you have a gateway to full access to your life is when you dance first, and then when you're in your body, you work on all your subconscious stuff.
So my last question for you is, what did I not ask that I should have asked especially with all the different type of work and how you combine it together and what you do and how you affect change in so many people, and not only women, but people around the globe.
You didn't ask me how they can work with me, so we'll address that now, I guess.
Yeah.
See, I'm healed now that I could understand that this is
Uh-huh.
my because in the past I would not do this. And here's the difference, right? Because it's bigger than any of us. We're all supposed to be healing at this beyond our own personal understanding of what that means, right? Now, I do monthly masterclasses under Move to Bloom, MOVETOBLOOM.com. Move to Bloom. And when they click on that, because it's subsidized by a nonprofit. So the first level, when you attend for free, it's free. You just 45 minutes once a month we do around these tools. If they upgrade again at a subsidized price through the nonprofit, they get a recording and other gifts. Because I wrote a book about it's called Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. And it's around the precursor to the Spotlight Confidence formula, which is called the Discover process. And it's 8 steps that I went through after my breast cancer. And here's the thing, we all survived the panini.
Yeah.
So in our way, we survived their version of cancer. Like we all
Yeah.
survived it. So the Discover process is very applicable to anyone who's still alive after the pandemic. So if you're 4 or 5, it's not applicable to you because you weren't born before it happened. But the rest of us, it's applicable because we lived through
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
So move2bloom.com. And they can always connect with me anywhere on social media. It's all done under Jenny C. Cohen. I'm the only non-white person that's Jenny C. Cohen everywhere. So if you just tell me you found me from Michael's Unfiltered Conversations, then I'll know what we talked about and I can address any questions.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, thank you, Jenny, so much. It's been an incredible conversation just hearing from you how you turned your own struggles and into a path where healing and confidence. I mean, I could just tell you exude it. And thank you for being vulnerable on the show because a lot of times I know it's difficult to be vulnerable because you're like, can I really say this? Especially when you have family and situations and things. So thank you for that and your insights, staying with us and with our listeners. We're so grateful for your time and your story and your journey. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Get a heart all the way through.
Yes, yes, I get a heart. Yes. Peace, guys.